Welcome to The Explainer. So let's talk about something that's kind of weird. We have all this incredible technology, right? Stuff that should be making our lives way easier. So why on earth are we all working more, not less? It's a real puzzle, and the answer, well, it's pretty absurd.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with this big promise that was made a long time ago. Then we'll dive into this really wild theory about modern jobs, breaking it down into the 5 different kinds of pointless work. We'll also talk about what that kind of work does to a person, mentally. And then we'll get into why these jobs even exist in the first place and, most importantly, what we could possibly do about it.
Okay, let's rewind the clock. We're going back almost 100 years, right into the middle of the Great Depression. You'd think people would be pretty pessimistic, but one guy made this incredibly bold, optimistic prediction.
Yeah, that guy was the legendary economist John Maynard Keynes. Back in 1930, he wrote this essay basically saying, hey, by the year 2030, technology is going to be so advanced, we'll all be working just 15 hours a week. Just enough to get things done, and the rest is free time.
I mean, can you imagine that? A future full of art, philosophy, and just living. But here we are on the doorstep of 2030, and the average American works something like 47 hours a week. So Keynes was right about the massive productivity gains, but the free time, it just never showed up. So what gives?
So where did all that time go? Well, an anthropologist named David Graeber came along with a pretty startling answer. He said that instead of taking all that free time technology gave us, we invented a bunch of pointless jobs to fill the void.
Now, this is a really key distinction. When Graeber says bullshit job, he's not talking about a bad job. He's not talking about being a cleaner or a garbage collector. He'd argue those jobs are absolutely essential. No, a bullshit job is one that's utterly meaningless. It's a role that could vanish tomorrow, and honestly, nothing would change. And the wildest part is, the person doing the job usually knows it.
And Graeber didn't just stop with that definition. He went deeper and actually broke these jobs down into 5 main categories. It's almost like he created a scientific classification system for useless work.
And he gave them some pretty memorable names too. Flunkies, goons, duct tapers, box tickers, and taskmasters. So let's get into what each of these actually is, because I have a feeling some of these might sound a little familiar.
All right, first up on the list, flunkies. Think of these jobs as the modern-day version of feudal lords having a bunch of servants just to show off. Their whole purpose is to make someone else look or feel important. It's not about doing anything useful. It's about being a status symbol for your boss. Number 2, we've got the goons. These jobs are basically part of a corporate arms race. They only exist because someone else, a competitor, has them too. A company hires an army of lobbyists because their rival has an army of lobbyists. If nobody had them, it would probably be fine. But since your competitor does, you feel like you need them too.
Next up, duct tapers. The name kind of says it all, right? These are the people whose entire job is to patch up problems that shouldn't even exist. Instead of actually fixing the flawed system, the organization just hires people to keep slapping on temporary fixes, day after day, week after week.
Okay, now for the box tickers. These are the people who create the illusion of action. Their whole job is about filling out forms, writing reports no one reads, or conducting surveys, all so the organization can check a box and say, see, we did the thing. It's all performance with no real substance behind it.
And finally, we have the taskmasters. Their main job is to supervise people who don't need supervising. Or, even worse, their job is to invent more pointless tasks for other people to do. So a taskmaster's job isn't just bullshit on its own, it actually creates more bullshit jobs in a never-ending cycle.
So we've got these 5 types of jobs. But this isn't just some abstract economic theory. Graeber's biggest point is about the human cost. What does it actually do to a person's soul to spend 40 hours a week pretending that your work matters when you know deep down that it doesn't?
And he didn't pull any punches. He called it a profound psychological violence, a scar across our collective soul. You might think, getting paid to do nothing? That sounds like the dream. But for many people, it's a quiet, soul-crushing nightmare.
So why is it so bad? Well, it's because as human beings, we seem to be wired to want to make a difference. We have this deep need to feel like what we do matters. So when you're paid to do a job you secretly believe is useless, it's a constant attack on your sense of purpose. It basically tells you that your time and your effort have no real value.
This leads to the million-dollar question, right? If these jobs are so damaging and so inefficient,
Why does our supposedly hyper-efficient economy keep creating more and more of them?
A huge piece of the puzzle is our culture. Graeber points to this idea that our society has a powerful work ethic, where work isn't just a way to make a living, it's a moral good in and of itself. We've been taught that our worth as people is tied to being employed, creating this massive pressure to have jobs for jobs' sake, even if those jobs don't do anything useful.
Now, interestingly, the data on this is a little complicated. A 2021 study in Europe found that very few people there actually felt their jobs were useless. But then a 2023 study in the US found the opposite. This suggests that this whole phenomenon might be a much bigger problem in certain types of economies, like in the US and the UK.
And here's a cool philosophical point. Graeber's idea of a bullshit job is different from what the philosopher Harry Frankfurt called bullshit. For Frankfurt, bullshit is about deception, when a person doesn't care if what they're saying is true or false. It's about intent. For Graeber, the job itself is the bullshit. You could be a completely sincere person, but if your job's function is pointless, you're in a bullshit job.
And this leads to something truly bizarre about our society. It seems that the more obviously your work helps other people, think teachers, nurses, cleaners, the less you're likely to get paid. And on the flip side, the more abstract or even questionable the value of your work is, the more money you tend to make. It's completely upside down.
So, if we're living in this world that creates spiritually damaging jobs and rewards uselessness, is there a way out? Well, Graeber and others have proposed some pretty radical solutions.
Graeber's number one idea was universal basic income, or UBI. The logic is simple. Give everyone a basic income to live on, and you suddenly detach survival from having a job. It would give people the power to say no to pointless work. Other ideas follow that same path, like legally shortening the work week or making sure your healthcare isn't tied to your employer. The goal is the same: free people up to pursue things that have real value.
And that leaves us with a final and maybe uncomfortable question. It's not about whether your job is hard or pays well or sounds prestigious. It's about really thinking about it and asking yourself, if my job disappeared tomorrow, would the world be any worse off? Would anyone even notice?